Hello, this is Doug Ian Green with Occupy Boston TV, bringing you the news and views the 1% does not want you to hear. Today I'm with the General Strike Working Group at Occupy Boston, and we're going to discuss the history of May Day, the relation of May Day to Occupy Boston, and planned actions here in Boston. And joining me is...
I'm Peter.
I'm Al.
I'm Nikki.
Okay, I think to get us started is, beyond being just May 1st, what is May Day?
Okay, I guess I'll go first. May Day is International Workers' Day. Basically, it's the real Labor Day. All over the world, people go on strike on May Day, take the day off, go to protests, demonstrations, riots, whatever. Hasn't been huge in the United States for a variety of reasons, but around the world, it's kind of a big deal.
I'd just add to that there's a lot of traditions that respond to May Day, the anarchist tradition, the socialist tradition, the communist tradition, and even just militant trade unions you'll find. So it really is a pretty inclusive holiday, and in a lot of countries it's actually it is the official Labor Day, unlike our Labor Day in September.
And just to add to that, I think May Day is just, it should be a national holiday here where no one has to work, or government agencies are shut down and stuff. So we'd like to see that, and this is going to, bring a lot of attention to the fact that it is a global holiday, and the U.S. needs to be part of that.
Okay, you've gone about, it's International Workers' Day, the official Labor Day in pretty much every other country in the world. Where did the day come from? Why is that important? How is May Day May 1st? What's the history behind that?
Well, strangely enough, actually it starts here in the United States and starts in Chicago, a working class town now, and then back in the 1880s around the struggle for the 8-hour day, which is one of the key struggles in the post-Civil War period, where especially at that time Chicago was becoming the industrial heartland, and so the struggle for the 8-hour day was extremely important. And so that's the genesis of the thing, without getting into a lot of details. That one thing that people can do is always, and this is the virtue of technology these days, look it up on Wikipedia for more details. But that's really the start of it, and part of it also is the events around the Haymarket Martyrs, which Peter may be able to talk about a little bit more. I'd like to talk about it more, to add into that.
Well, who are the Haymarket?
The Haymarket Martyrs are 8 anarchists who were active in the labor movement in Chicago at the time I was talking about. Just to keep it brief, they were falsely accused of inciting people to riot in connection with a bomb attack on policemen at a demonstration for the 8-hour day. I believe 5 of them were either executed or committed suicide in prison. 3 of them were eventually pardoned by the next government. That's one of the seminal moments in United States labor history. And as Al said, in large part, that's how May Day kind of got started, in at least the modern context.
And certainly, when you talk about not only the development of the anarchist movement, but the socialist movement as well, early on, the socialist movement embodied in the Second International, I believe it's 1890, I'm not sure on the date, but I think it endorsed it as the official labor holiday for the working class.
So I would assume, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that a lot of the reason May Day is not necessarily well known or celebrated in the United States probably has to do with like the rampant anti-communism and anti-anarchist feeling that permeates a lot of American culture. Would that be, or just like the general anti-labor feeling?
I think that's probably a good guess. A lot of people feel like the actual holiday Labor Day, which we celebrate in September.
Yeah.
September. But that's kind of like a fake Labor Day, like it's kind of like a distraction from actual May Day as Labor Day. So, and some people feel that that's kind of done to disempower us.
Yeah, because it's just a day
Yeah.
for barbecues.
Just to add a little bit, there's kind of an ebb and flow in this thing. I mean, it was well celebrated for a lot of years in the latter part of the 19th century. And then in the 1930s, when there were labor upsurges in the United States, it was celebrated as part of, and then when, as you pointed out, the anti-communist hysteria came in after World War II, and with the Red Scare and the McCarthy hearings and all of that kind of thing, you know, it got pushed into the back burner seriously. But there were huge demonstrations even here in Boston during the 1930s on May Day. So, like I say, it's an up and down history. Right now, more down than up. Although over the last several years, obviously, with the immigrant question, it's become a larger issue.
Now, recently, we've seen, of course, in the last 6 months, the upsurge of the Occupy movement in the United States. And of course, this is feeding into a lot of other recent events, such as the economic crisis in the last few years, along with the Arab Spring, the Greek uprising. And so what does May Day exactly have to do with Occupy?
Well, it's part of the general struggle against domination by the ruling class. That's what Occupy Boston, the Occupy movement in general is about. And it ties into May Day really well.
Well,
I think May Day it's a time for Occupies, like basically all over the world, to really unite with a lot of other organizations for just a day. We're calling it a day without the 99%. Just to kind of like bring in everybody into our movement in some ways, and just get everyone involved. We're asking people to not work, to not go to school, to not do any banking, no chores. And
like
just
that
so,
idea.
yeah, so that everyone can participate and be a part of it, and that'll bring more people into what the Occupy movement is trying to get across. What message we're trying to get across, kind of just reach out to a lot of people that have not actually been on the streets with us, and invite them. Now's your day. This is a big day. This is happening all over the world. Now's the time to be a part of it. And so it's huge for Occupy, because it's a chance to mobilize a lot more people than we've seen.
right.
Maybe can I just add a little bit more to that? This actually, we're responding. General Strike Occupy Boston is responding to a call by Occupy LA, which called for the general strike back in December. And part of their motivation was to link up the Occupy movement with the international working class movement, especially around the question of immigrant rights and social justice. And LA, if you remember, several years ago, 2006, was one of the big spots where there were massive demonstrations and shutdown of industry and all that kind of thing on May Day. And I think that's what they're responding to make Occupy aware of those previous struggles and to line us up with those struggles as well.
I think also the timing, just a lot of us have been cooped up all winter, and just really looking forward to the spring. And May 1st is obviously just like the beginning of spring, the real beginning of spring, and it's just such a great date to use for coming back out of the winter.
So, just a quick follow-up. You said Occupy LA endorsed this call. Did Occupy Boston endorse anything specific? Did they endorse to hold actions on May Day, or is this autonomous action?
They endorsed the call by Occupy LA. Beyond that, specific actions, somebody else can speak to that, but essentially, we've got our list of actions that we're planning on May. Some of them, for instance, Block Party at the Financial District is one way we're responding. LA is also doing that. A lot of occupiers are doing something in the financial districts of their cities that day, which is one way to respond to it, especially around the question of corporate greed and the banks got bailed out and all those kind of slogans that have developed out of the Occupy movement over the last several months.
Well, I guess to quickly follow up, before we get to actually what is planned for May 1st, specifically in Boston, you've kind of alluded to a general strike. Can you maybe explain what a general strike is? Maybe give us an historical example or a recent example of one?
Yeah, the general strike is when the entire population goes on strike, as opposed to just people at one company or one industry. And historically, it's a really powerful revolutionary tactic because it completely shuts down all industry and there's no profit, nothing moves. The ruling class isn't making any money. The most recent one, there have been several in Greece. I know there was one in Spain on, I forget the exact date, I believe it was in March. And that was in response to the austerity measures that are being imposed by the Spanish government to pay off the Spanish debt that was, incurred without any input from people who actually lived there. And that was extremely successful. They had somewhere in the neighborhood of 80% of all workers walking off the job. Major riots and demonstrations all over the country, especially in Barcelona. Obviously, we don't expect that level of participation here. But this is a good opportunity to kind of push the idea of a general strike and to make as much noise as we can about it.
Anyone else like that?
Yeah, I think, again, I always use the word, because somebody brought this up at some Occupy meeting that I was at earlier in the year, and they said, well, you're not going to get the American working class and its allies to go out on a general strike on May Day this year. There's no precedent for it. And I said, well, okay, not this year, but we do have an aspiration, and so I think that idea of the general strike, put that as part of the political vocabulary in the American political body is important, and if nothing else, we bring that idea in of what is and isn't a general strike. We saw a partial situation in Oakland last winter in November, and also another partial one in December, heading that way. So we're trying to use this in a propagandistic sense, and not in a good sense of propaganda, of putting forth this idea that yes, just regular ordinary people can put the stop to the 1% on any particular time if they unite. And that's, I think, part of the issue we're trying to address here for this May Day.
Yeah, I agree with it. I first felt that the May Day general strike would be really awesome when I heard about what they were doing in Oakland back in November 2011. And just the idea that basically a lot of people don't even know what it is or hadn't heard of it. So just to kind of get that into people's minds, so they're kind of aware of these tactics that we have. I thought that was really important, and I think it's all just part of raising awareness and empowering the 99%.
So let's now get to what exactly is planned here in Boston on May 1st. What's the calendar of events for that day?
We want to start from the beginning of the day?
He's got the list.
Okay, he's got the list.
However you want to.
We'll work off the
We can
list.
all talk about it and stuff. It starts at 7 a.m. with the Financial District Block Party, and that's going to be, we're going to meet at the corner of Federal and Furnace Street, which is right by Bank of America.
Actually, Franklin Street.
It's Franklin?
Yeah,
Federal and Franklin Street.
What did you do?
Thank you, I have that here. And basically, I don't know how much detail we want to give about this, but we're going to have.
Feel comfortable with this one.
Well, I think it's pretty obvious that we're planning some blockades and all kinds of actions. There's going to be some dancing there. We're going to have some sound systems, and we're calling for autonomous actions, autonomous artwork, basically to draw attention to what's going on around everyone, because we realize there'll be people trying to go back and forth to work, and we want to try to engage them beyond just blockades. But I think we want to shut it down. We want to shut the financial district down. I think it's probably going to happen.
Well,
Some of it.
And as far as specifics go,
who knows?
it's really more of a kind of show up and do what you feel like doing kind of thing.
Right.
I mean, we're telling people where to go. We're going to have probably food and music and art and stuff. Beyond that, it's really up to whoever shows up and does what they do.
Exactly, and also obviously depends on numbers, because at some point, if you don't have enough numbers, then, you don't want to get into foolish confrontations that you can't win and just reflect poorly on the situation. On the other hand, we are very interested in trying to, frankly, shut it down. That slogan that we use, gets practical application. Banks got bailed out, we got sold out. Well, we're making a point that day that, hey, you might have gotten bailed out, but we haven't forgotten, who we are and who you are, and so that's how we're going to spend that day. And again, we can speculate all we want, but it'll depend on, who. I think Peter and Nikki made a good comment. We have an aspiration to do something, whether it happens or not. Okay, we'll see what happens.
Is there anything else planned? You said the morning. Is there anything in the afternoon or the evening as well?
There are other things planned. So the block party we just talked about, that's from 7 a.m. until 11 a.m. basically. We'll see how that all goes. And then Star Square, that's going to head down to City Hall Plaza for the noontime rally. We think that probably some people are also going to march from the financial district around 11 and probably meet up with the march coming from Copley and then converge onto City Hall together. So we'll have a big show up there of the two marches.
We should also, you finish on that one. We should put a plug in for the Boston May Day Coalition, who has actually been instrumental in putting this part of the day together. This actually has a city permit to be down there at City Hall Plaza.
Yeah, that's the noon rally.
The noon rally at City Hall is kind of I would say, co-sponsored by us and by the Boston May Day Coalition, with them having done the initial work. It's going to be about an hour, and there'll be some speeches and speak out, and I don't know about music, but an hour is about, I think that's all the permit is for, isn't it? For an hour?
The permit's for an hour.
The permit's for an hour, so, but that's important. It's important to understand that we are building off of work that other people did in the Boston May Day Coalition, which got established in 2006 around the immigration question that I mentioned earlier. That was big in LA and Denver and Phoenix and other towns, and also was here. And that's not the end of the afternoon stuff, is it? No.
Nope, so that's right. So we'll have the noon rally at City Hall Plaza, and there's going to be solidarity messages from a lot of different speakers. There'll probably be some kind of musical entertainment. I'm not really sure what the lineup is for that. Occupy Boston Screen Print Guild is going to have a table set up for some live screen printing. If you want to bring a t-shirt or whatever to print on there, you can do that. And we'll probably have some stuff pre-printed up too. If you want to give us a donation, then you can take a t-shirt or something like that. So that's at noon. And then right following that, that rally at City Hall Plaza, which should be ending about 1 o'clock, people are going to head over to East Boston and march from East Boston to Everett for Glendale Park. And then there's also, about the same time, there's a rally in Chelsea that's going to march also to Everett, and the two marches are going to converge on Glendale Park in Everett for a big rally there.
What's the name of the park in East Boston, though, so people...
Lopresti Park in East Boston. SEIU is providing a bus from City Hall Plaza to Lopresti Park, so people can hop on that if they want. But a lot of people are just going to hop on the T to get there. I'm pretty sure it's the Maverick station.
It is.
They'll announce that at the rally.
Right.
So, but what we have here is the Solidarity March from Chelsea. It's going to start at 2 o'clock from Chelsea City Hall and march to Glendale Park in Everett. And then at 2:30, the march is going to start from Lopresti Park in East Boston and go to Everett. That's all this information is available on bostonmayday.org.
I also just want to add that in the video description of this, you can find the information as well.
Just an initial point on why East Boston. Well, East Boston and Chelsea and Revere are centers of particularly the Latino immigrant community in the greater Boston area, and they've had the tradition the last several years of having rallies and marches over there, and so we're feeding into that. This is pre-existing. This is not something that we started. This again is a tip of the hat to the Boston May Day Coalition and the people who have been working this for the last several years, so that we link up into the Latino and other immigrant community around the question, particularly around the governmental regulations on immigration, and obviously more importantly, the intense increase in deportations that has occurred under the Obama administration.
Is there any other events planned for May 1st? In the evening, perhaps?
Yes. Yeah. There is a gathering at Copley Square Park starting at 7 p.m. And that's for the Death of Capitalism funeral procession. This is a piece of street theater, and we have some pretty elaborate stuff that's part of this procession, including some puppets and marching band. The marching band's second line from the Honk Festival. They're going to be playing for the funeral procession. It's kind of we're thinking it's kind of like a Dia de los Muertos meets New Orleans type of feel to it, with glowy stuff, and we're asking people to come and participate as there's 3 different roles. There's mourners, who would be dressed in black suits or whatever they want to do. There's celebrators wearing bright colors and stuff like that, and glowy stuff, and then skeletons, if people want to come as a skeleton. We probably will have some face paint there to paint you up, but it'd be great if you could bring some of your own skeleton gear.
That's it. If you don't have your own skeleton gear, don't be afraid to show
Right,
it.
yeah. You can show it, but we're
Yeah, so
trying to-
this is kind of like, I mean, there is the aspect of the celebration of May Day, not only as an international working class holiday, but, as a fun day. In a lot of countries, this is the kind of thing they do because it's their holiday, and so it's a fun fiesta kind of thing. And also even goes back in our culture, back to the maypoles and all of that stuff back in, I come from Quincy, and we used to have a May Day celebration because Marymount is the place where they had all of this, during Puritan times, they had all of this May Day activity, which was a fun activity, and so that's part of what we want to generate for the evening as well. We got serious politics here, seriously trying to orient to and align with the international working class, but also, it's time for fun as well.
The evening march, we're gathering at Copley at 7 o'clock, and we're going to give ourselves an hour to put on costumes and puppets and stuff like that. So the funeral procession will actually leave at 8 o'clock. So just so people know that the 7 o'clock is like from when we're all going to kind of gather, and then we're gonna go at 8 o'clock, and we're going to march around areas of wealth and commerce. Kind of leaving that up to.
I think we're almost done, and I just have a few questions. Is there any particular chants or slogans you want people to maybe start familiarizing themselves with now?
I wish I had my notes. Well, I know for the evening thing, it's really about the death of capitalism, and capitalism kills, and so anything kind of morbid type of slogans. That's kind of what we're looking for that. But
Okay, yeah.
I think really people can bring their own message. That's our call to action. Really covered a lot of different issues, and what we're trying to do is get everybody to come out and participate and voice their concern. And I know that there's certain groups that are organizing their own autonomous actions, like the Queer Direct Action Group is going to have, I believe they're going to have a block in the financial district. So, you know, people are gonna represent, the issues that are dear to them, and then, but I think overall, it's just, a sense of economic justice and, labor right.
Well, I think also this gives everybody, well, I think the general slogans of no work, no banking, no shopping, no chores, which is like nobody's got a problem, no school kind of thing, kind of gives us a feel. I mean, people can work, chance around that kind of thing. I mean, obviously a big one is on the, and it always will be as long as we still have the banks, is, that banks got bailed out business and we got sold out. I mean, that's a key thing that's been driving, that sentiment has been driving the Occupy movement for months now. But I think, the idea is people should try as best they can to consciously, I guess that's what I'm trying to emphasize, consciously do one of those kind of things. Don't shop, and don't do chores, don't do banking, don't go to work. I mean, it would be really nice if you didn't go to work. I mean, we're encouraging people to call in sick if they can that day. I mean, we know there's a lot of problems with trying to do some of this stuff on short notice and not on a situation where people are taking the day off without some kind of risks, but we would encourage people to do that.
Okay, so after May 1st, what do you see coming out of this action? What do you hope to accomplish for the future? I mean, any long-term or short-term goals?
I mean, for me at least, and this is just, we haven't really talked about it as a working group, but I really want to raise awareness, about May Day, about worker issues, about, the state of our country in general. It seems like a pretty good way to do it. So.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I think it's really about building a movement. We need like massive numbers of people out on the street. It's not just about an activist community. It's about every single person that works and that is getting ripped off right now by the 1%. And it's about just empowering the 99%, and hopefully some new faces will participate and realize that they do have some power and that they're going to continue with the struggle.
And how can people help prepare for this action? I know we've still got almost 2 weeks. How can people help?
Well, obviously, make donations, financial donations would be helpful through, I don't know, what would they make them through?
Well, they could donate to the Occupy Boston General Fund, which is on occupyboston.org. I think what we really need right now is just outreach. I mean, just to let everyone know what's going on, read up on it, so you're aware of what's happening and why this is happening, and just spread the word, just tell all your friends, encourage everyone to call out sick, or take the day off and to show up, and if you can't come to Boston, do something in your own community, go picket a Bank of America, go have a picnic down in your town hall and hold some signs, but do something and just let as many people know as possible. Let's just spread the word.
And I also think on next Thursday, we're having a joint meeting of General Strike Occupy Boston and the Boston May Day Coalition. Like I said, we've been working together on this. There's a final meeting, and it's basically a working meeting in terms of putting stuff together, putting signs together, posters.
That's on Thursday, right? It's Thursday, April 26th.
Right.
Here at E5, we're going to have a big meeting we're going to make banners and posters and talk about the day. And then also, Occupy Boston has their Monday night community nights. On April 30th, we're going to have the May Day community night, the night before this all happens. So we encourage people to go to that as well. And information is available on the occupyboston.org calendar.
And I think it's also in the Boston Occupier as well. There's an article by the working group in this issue number 7. Issue number 7, and there's also a list of events and all that kind of thing. But it really, if you can't make any of these meetings beforehand, at least show up for one of our things on May Day, one or more, and we encourage you to spend the whole day here in Boston. If you're coming in, you might as well come in for the whole day, wouldn't you say?
And we just encourage people to take on autonomous actions, and, you know, if they have any ideas and they want to organize stuff with their friends or their organizations, we just strongly encourage them to do it. Do something fun, have a good time, and join us.
Now, just two last questions is, are there any other websites beyond the ones you've listed that we can go to find more information? Perhaps, or a Facebook group as well?
Well, there's the Boston May Day Coalition website, and also they have a Facebook page, so I want to make sure and that's centrally about who is around the rally at Boston City Hall. We have a financial district
Yeah, there's
Facebook page.
Yeah, there are a bunch of there's like a ridiculous amount of Facebook events for May Day. There's the Financial District Block Party.
Right.
That's one Facebook event. There's the 11 a.m. Anti-Capitalist March from Copley. There's an event for that.
Okay.
There's an event for the Death of Capitalism funeral procession.
Oh, really?
It's called the May Day Death of Capitalism funeral procession. So there's all kinds of stuff. So if people can get on there, if they're on the Facebook, and then invite, you know, all their friends, and, you know, just get as many people to show up.
I got to second everything Alan Nikki said. Talk to as many people as you can, get them to show up. They have to leave now. It's been great. Thanks.
All right. And is there any other information you'd like to share with us?
No, I think we've pretty much covered everything. There's a lot of events. You have whatever you think you feel comfortable with, from 7 o'clock in the morning till probably 9 or 10, maybe 11 at night. There's a whole range of things, you know, your issues, you know, here's a chance for you to speak out on your issue, carry your sign, you know, chant your chant kind of thing, and in solidarity with people not only in other cities in the United States, but in the world. This is a worldwide movement. You know, May Day is the international working class holiday for the vast majority of people in the world, and we want to, here in the United States, link into that, and link into that idea that we've got a huge number of resources that we can rely on, and to try to change the situation not only in this country but in the world.
Yeah, this is a big day. This is going to be a global day of action. We expect to get media coverage, you know, locally, nationally, internationally. We're going to have some food and water there. People should bring their own stuff if, you know, if they feel like they need to. But we will have food and water. We'll have legal observers, and we'll have medics there as well. We're not expecting any trouble, but you know, things happen. But really, it's just this is a big day for the world, for the 99% all over the world, and everyone needs to be part of it, and everyone needs to help spread the word.
This is Dougina Green with Occupy Boston TV, encouraging you to check out the information found in the video description and to show up yourself on May 1st.